Okay, welcome back. So now it's time for the Allied players Blitz phase. And before I forget, we forgot to put a control marker in Hollandia for the Japanese. Just so we don't forget that it was actually Japanese occupied. So, what do the Allied player want to do? I think what we're trying to do now is to get... We have these infantry units here, two infantry units and a transport. So we'd like to rebase this transport. We'd like to rebase this transport, and it has a movement factor of 2, so we could potentially go out 1, 2, 3, 4 into New Britain, for example. The problem is that we have a Japanese fleet here. And then next turn, if we could land our transport and infantry and marines here, we could next turn start invading islands in all 3 sea zones here. That will be difficult for the Japanese to cover. So, as I said, the problem is that we have a Japanese fleet here in the Bismarck Sea. And you can't rebase if the sea area is enemy controlled. So even if you move in Allied units here, we would need to get rid of, force these guys to rebase in order to be able to do our rebase of the transport. But I think we could give it a shot. I mean, well, it's quite a hefty fleet they have here. We could probably get in this guy and that guy. So we have up here, you have this unit and this unit. They could both get in here. I'm pretty sure this guy could probably make it too. Yeah, probably can. So we could actually concentrate the force and just try to destroy this fleet or make it rebase. And if it doesn't rebase, at least we can move the transport over to South Pacific or Polynesia. So I think that's what we're going to do. And to do that, let's see. If we do a naval blitz, we can do A to C again. So, which is no good because we need to rebase. We need to do step D, which is the rebase. Otherwise, we can't get the transport over. Otherwise, we'll take an extra turn. So I think we'll just do a total blitz in order to be able to do that. We have plenty of oil. We have 2 oil resources every turn and 5 other resources. So I think we can afford to do that. And so the first thing is to go back to port, return to port, and I think this is kind of a neat mechanic. So in order to go anywhere with your naval ships, you always have to return to port first, which is, so this movement factor is not only movement factor, it's also kind of the range of operation. So it's the maximum range you can be away from your base, basically. So I think that's quite a neat way to do it. You can never move from sea zone directly to sea zone. You just have to go back to base first. So this third fleet could go 1, 2. Which would actually, let's not do that, because this is a minor port. It can only hold 2 steps of naval units, and we need this guy to go in here. So the third fleet could just rebase to mid-bay because it has 3 movement points. So later we can go out 1, 2. So the light CVs, they would have to go 1, 2. And then the Pacific fleet would have to go to something like Western Samoa, which is a major port. That's our return to base. We could also potentially rebase our air and go into Micronesia again. It would make it a little bit harder for the Japanese to transport stuff through Micronesia in case they want to get through down here. Yeah, let's do that. So if you're trying to move naval units, you can be intercepted, and you roll a die, and so basically you're blockaded, so you can't move through if depending on what you roll and depending on what units you have here. And the air units are pretty good at blockading, so we could hinder some Japanese movement. So let's go back to base with the air as well. Okay, then we have move to sea area. Oh wait, let's see if we want to do something with our Australian little. I think we'll just leave that one here. Okay, so now we have moved to sea area, and now we're going to concentrate the fleet in the Bismarck Sea. So we move with Pacific Fleet 1, 2, the light CVs 1, 2, and finally we move this guy out here 1, 2. Remember, air units, they need to use 2 movement points to move out to sea. The fleet goes 1, the third fleet goes 1, 2. Okay, and that's it for the sea area combat, move to sea area, and now we have sea area combat. So what do we have here? On the Allied side we have, first of all, there's an air-to-air combat, where the Allies have 3 factors and 1 plus. The Japanese have 2 factors and 1 plus, so the Allies will roll on table 4 and the Japanese will roll on table 3. They both roll 5s, 3 for the Japanese, 4 for the US. There's a 1 step loss for each. And the Allied player really wanted to get some rebasing results here. So the Japanese, I wonder if they will, should they flip this guy over or this guy over? The first step loss in each combat you decide yourself, and then the second one is decided by the opponent. So the Japanese player can decide here. This is a 3. Both are reduced by 3. I think we'll just go down with a combined fleet. And then we have a step loss on the Americans as well. Potentially, you want to keep these minus signs, the minus triangles, as many as possible. Yeah, we have to lose 1. I think we'll just reduce this one. Okay. So now the actual surface combat. We will have on the Japanese side, they have 11 factors, reduced by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so they only roll on column 6. The Americans have 9, 14, reduced by 1, so they roll on table 13. So 13 for the Americans, and what did we say? 5, let's see, table 6, right? So 11 minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. 13 for the Americans, and column 6 for the Allies, for the Japanese. Well, not much happened here, I think. So on table 13 we have a step loss and an S result. On column 6 we get an S result. So the Japanese will have to take 1 step loss and retreat with 1 unit. They have 2 units, 1/3 rounded up to 1. So the Americans were not able to clear this space. I think what we'll do is that we will take a reduction on the mobile fleet, and then we will retreat with the mobile fleet up to 2 steps. So 1, 2 to Carolina Islands. The Americans, that was an S result, so they have to rebase 1 of these, 1/3 of their units, so 1 of these they have to rebase. I think we'll rebase this guy, because this one has these very nice defensive factors that can be good. So, and we go to Phoenix Islands. Okay, so we weren't quite successful in clearing the Bismarck Sea. So now we can't rebase, now we can't rebase the transport directly into New Britain. We can still rebase it though to some other sea area, for example Western Samoa, and then next turn we can move out 1, 2, and then so we will get in here eventually, but it will take much longer time than if we could have just rebased directly now to New Britain. But we weren't able to clear the seas of enough Japanese units. Okay, so now we come to rebase air naval units. The transport here on the west coast will pick up. So we have a 1-step transport. It can carry 2 steps of infantry or 2 steps of units, and then we can load up both the Marines and the 7th Army. And now we go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to Western Samoa. And once again, just a reminder, on these islands that are denoted as circles, you can only have, as a maximum, you can only have 2 steps of infantry, 2 steps of air units. So we're now at maximum capacity for this island. So now we come to move land units. I'm thinking about, I wonder if it's worth staying in Canton actually. The problem is that we don't have any defensive terrain here in Canton, so I imagine the Japanese will just crush these units next turn. Maybe we'll be just better off in the mountains instead. So yeah, I think we'll just move this unit into Chongqing. Just leave Canton open. It's still Chinese control though, so put a control marker there. In India, I don't know that we can do much about this. No, let's just leave it at that. What we could do is try to get more troops from, for example, Australia up to India. It's a little bit dangerous now though. So okay, so now we're done with the Allied Blitz phase as well. There's no land area combat. And now we go to the turn end activities. Okay, so now we'll go to build units. I think we'll build with the Allied player first this time. We have to do some weapons development, so we can pick 2 units now. There's only these 2 to pick from, so we're going to pick those. And then what we're going to do, I don't know if we're going to build these. We have to repair some stuff on the board. So let's do that first. We have 5 resource points and 2 oil. I definitely think we should save the oil to be able to do some invasions next turn in the Blitz phase. So we're going to repair the Pacific Fleet. That's 1 point. And you can repair stuff even while it's at sea. Which, yeah, I mean, it's an easy way to do it, I guess. It can have some weird implications when... But you can, I don't think you can, if they're out of supply, so they can't trace the supply line, then you can't do it. Which is not a problem for these units. They're not isolated. That's 1 point. We can't increase the size of these guys. And China, yeah. So China cannot build anything this turn. So China is a special case, and in this scenario, China can only build if they have land units in Chongqing. But this turn, the Japanese were able to both close off the Burma Road, which means that there's no more Lend-Lease coming from the US, and they were able to strategically bomb the factories in Chongqing. So China they don't have any resource at all this turn. What they can do, though, is to rebuild their 3 garrison units, which I guess they will just place in Chongqing. So they have that, and that's it. And we spent 1 resource so far on repairing the Pacific Fleet, and this is what we can build. So we're definitely gonna build the submarines, and we have to put that on the west coast. So now we've used 3 points. We can also do some weapons development. You can spend resource points to try to research these reinforcements a bit early. So let's do that. We spend 1 point, resource point, and then we roll a die. If we roll 1 to 4, we succeed, and then we randomly add 1 of these units to the force pool. So let's roll. Let's spend 1 point on that. Yeah, we got it. So we can now add 1 of these units randomly. So let's just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that's easy. So 1 through 6. Okay, we got another transport, which is actually quite nice. So now we spent, let's see, so we spent 2 on the sub, 1 on repairing the Pacific Fleet, so that's 3, 1 on research, that's 4, so we have 1 more build point, and with that we're going to build a reduced transport unit. And we're going to build it on the west coast. And actually, I think in this case, what we will do is actually we will just build a reduced size submarine unit, and we will build the Mexican army. Then we can actually pick up that one with the transport and move into the fight. So, the Japanese. What should the Japanese spend its money on? We have one oil, which I think we have to save. Yeah. So we're gonna save the oil. And then we have 5 resources. We can start by repairing the fleet units. So we're gonna repair this one. 1, 2, 3. So we already spent 3 points on that. So 2 more points to build new stuff. Let's see. We can take 2 units from Group 2. And we have now the second strike fleet. We can actually build a larger one. And it's over here. We can also increase the size of the mobile fleet or build some U-boats. It would also be nice to repair the Imperial Army. So I think we'll do that. That's 4 now. Yes, let's spend the last point on increasing the mobile fleet yet again. So we put this one in the reserve pool, and we take out the mobile fleet, but we only increase it 1 step, so we will have to place it on its reduced side. Okay, I think that's it for turn 2. No, so now we come to victory points. And for that we have to take a look at the map and see how much we control and what the Japanese player have taken. So the Japanese player controls all the islands in South China Sea, East China Sea, Leyte Gulf, Micronesia, except one, which is Midway, and that's okay. So that's fulfilling the co-prosperity sphere victory point. So the Japanese player is going to gain 1 victory. The US, I don't think they have any victory point this turn. They don't dominate the Pacific. They haven't forced the Japanese player to retreat. They have lots of fleets out. Here, here, and here. So, and they definitely don't have the bring democracy to Asia point, because then they need to control lots of stuff here. I wonder though if the Japanese are getting close to getting points for the CBI theater. So if Japan controls at least 6 land areas in Burma, China, India, and or Southeast Asia, then they will get a victory point. So right now they control 1, 2, 3. So it's quite far from getting the victory in the CBI point. But we can probably take this one next turn. Maybe even this one. So yeah, could go up to 5 maybe next turn, which would bring it closer to actually achieving that victory point as well. But yeah, the problem is for the Japanese now, in order to keep gaining points for the co-prosperity sphere, they need to protect all these islands, and that's going to be tough with the Americans now having an invasion force here and quite a nice fleet So yeah, I'm not so sure the Japanese can pull this off, but we will see.